The Grand Council chamber fell silent as Kalin stepped onto the crystalline platform. Around her, representatives from 47 species sat in tiered rings. Chitinous exoskeletons gleamed under the lights. Translucent membranes shimmered with bioluminescence. Scaled hides and feathered crests turned toward the solitary human standing at the center. Ambassador Threxenel, a towering Cravathi whose species had ruled the War Beast program for 3 centuries, rose from his seat. His 6 eyes fixed on Kalin with contempt. The human wore simple combat fatigues, no ceremonial armor, no weapons, to the assembled council. She looked absurdly small. The human claims authority over the sacred war beasts, Threxenel announced. This council demands proof. The beasts have served the Cravathi since before your species discovered fire. What makes you believe you can lead them? Kalin met his gaze without flinching. The war beasts were more than military assets to the galactic community. They were living symbols of power, creatures bred for millennia to be the ultimate weapons. Each beast stood 3 meters tall, possessed armor-plated hides that could deflect plasma fire, and jaws strong enough to crush starship hull plating. I don't believe I can lead them, Kalin said quietly. I know I can. Murmurs rippled through the council. Several representatives activated their translation matrices, certain they had misheard. Proof, Threxenel demanded. Show us this supposed bond you claim. Kalin nodded. I'll need access to the training grounds. The chamber's walls became transparent, revealing the massive arena below. 200 war beasts occupied the space, separated into their traditional pack structures. These were battle-hardened veterans, each bearing scars from conflicts across the galaxy. At the far corner, apart from the adults, a group of 20 cubs wrestled and played under watchful eyes. The cubs were already the size of Earth's largest predators. The beasts are released from sedation protocols, Threxenel announced. Demonstrate your leadership, human. Kalin walked to the platform's edge. The drop to the arena floor was 12 meters. Without hesitation, she stepped off. The council gasped. At the last moment, Kalin twisted her body, rolling as she hit the ground. She stood smoothly, brushing dust from her fatigues. The war beasts noticed her arrival. 200 pairs of eyes turned toward the human. The nearest pack, 15 massive creatures led by a scarred veteran named Ironhide, began moving toward her. Their movements were predatory, calculated. Kalin stood still. She didn't reach for a weapon, didn't activate a shield. She simply waited as the pack approached, their heavy footfalls shaking the ground. Ironhide stopped 3 meters away. The beast's head alone was larger than Kalin's entire torso. Hot breath washed over her as the creature exhaled. The human raised one hand slowly. She placed her palm against Ironhide's scarred muzzle. Hey, big guy, she whispered. Remember me? The war beast's amber eyes softened. A sound rumbled from deep in the creature's chest. Not a growl. Purr. The council chamber fell silent. Threxenel leaned forward, his confidence wavering. Kalin moved through the pack, greeting each beast individually. She touched old scars, murmured words the council couldn't hear. One by one, the war beasts responded. They lowered their massive heads. They pressed against her with surprising gentleness. This proves nothing, Threxenel called down. You have established familiarity, but leadership requires command. The beasts must obey orders without question. Kalin looked up at the council. You want to see command? She walked to the center of the arena. The war beasts followed her, forming a loose circle. Kalin reached into her pocket and pulled out a small whistle. It looked like a toy compared to the sophisticated control devices the Cravathi used. She brought the whistle to her lips and blew. No sound emerged that the council could hear. But the war beasts responded instantly. 200 creatures moved as one. They flowed into formation with military precision, forming perfect battle lines that stretched across the arena. Each beast took its designated position without hesitation. The formation was complex, requiring each animal to know not only its own role but the roles of every other beast. The council chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. The Cravathi battle formation was considered the pinnacle of war-beast coordination. It took their handlers decades to achieve such precision using advanced neural links and chemical conditioning. Kalin had achieved it with a whistle. But she wasn't finished. She walked toward the cubs in the corner, who had stopped playing to watch the adults. The largest cub, a young male with bright eyes, bounded toward her. "Vash," Kalin said warmly, kneeling to greet the cub. The young war beast nuzzled against Kalin with obvious affection. The other cubs followed, surrounding the human in a tumbling mass of scales and enthusiasm. Threxenel descended from the council platform, approaching Kalin swiftly. His posture was rigid with disbelief. "How?" he demanded. "The neural conditioning alone should take years. The chemical bonding protocols." "I don't use those methods," Kalin interrupted gently, still stroking Vash's head. "Then explain this." Threxenel gestured at the perfect battle lines and the cubs who treated the human like pack family. Kalin stood, and Vash stayed close to her side. "Your people treat the war beasts as weapons, as tools to be programmed and controlled. You use fear and dominance and chemical manipulation." She walked along the front line. Each massive beast she passed turned its head to track her movement, but none broke position. "I treat them as people," Kalin continued. "I learned their language, their body signals, and their social structures. I spent 5 years living with the wild packs on Togash Prime before I ever tried to give a single command." "Impossible," Threxenel breathed. "No species can survive 5 years with wild war beasts." "Humans can," Kalin said simply. "Because we don't try to dominate, we try to understand." She reached up and placed her hand on the shoulder of the nearest beast, a female named Stormcaller. "I know that Stormcaller's favorite scratching spot is behind her left ear plate. I know that Ironhide gets anxious during thunderstorms because of trauma from his first battle. I know that Vash loves the taste of Terran apples." Kalin turned to face the council. "I know their names, their personalities, their fears, and their joys. And because I know them, they trust me. Not because I force them to, because they choose to." She brought the whistle to her lips again. This time she blew a different pattern. The formation dissolved as 200 war beasts surged forward. The council members recoiled, certain they were witnessing the human's death. But the beasts didn't attack. They gathered around Kalin, pressing close, creating a living shield. Vash climbed onto her shoulder, still small enough that Kalin could support his weight. The cub's mother, Thunderheart, stood directly behind the human, positioned protectively. "This is my proof," Kalin called up to the council. "Not dominance. Partnership. Not control. Trust." Threxenel stared at the scene. In 3 centuries of Cravathi management, he had never seen the war beasts respond with such coordination, such obvious devotion. His species had built their reputation on controlling these creatures. But the human had done something his people never imagined possible. She had made them family. The council chamber filled with urgent discussions. Representatives conferred with advisors. Finally, the council's senior member, an ancient Vishari, raised a crystalline appendage for silence. "The council recognizes Kalin of Earth as supreme commander of the sacred war beasts," the Vishari announced. "Furthermore, we commission a new program. Humans will be assigned to train alongside the war beasts." Kalin bowed her head. Around her, the war beasts settled, content now that the challenge to their chosen leader had been resolved. Vash chirped happily from her shoulder, and Kalin smiled, scratching the cub's chin. Threxenel approached slowly, his earlier hostility replaced by grudging respect. "I would like to learn your methods," he admitted. "If you would teach them." "Of course," Kalin replied. "But first you'll need to learn their names. All of them, and their favorite foods, and the songs they like to hear before sleep." The Cravathi ambassador looked uncertain. "Songs?" Kalin's smile widened. "Come on, I'll introduce you properly." As she led Threxenel toward the war beasts, with Vash still perched on her shoulder and 200 massive creatures following peacefully behind, the council watched in wonder. The human had not conquered through strength or technology. She had succeeded through the one quality that made her species unique in the galaxy.